I was probably mentally weak. I was losing focus a lot. If they gave me 10 things I needed to do, I could remember 5. If they gave me 5 to do, I could remember 3.
3 different women have now spoken up with almost the exact same story about their husband's mental state. But this time, they didn't even have to say a word. Kody Brown himself has confirmed what they've been trying to get people to understand for years. And he admitted it with such blunt honesty. You have to wonder if he even realizes how big of a statement he just made. I was probably mentally weak, Kody said in a recent press interview. He dropped this shocking line as casually as if he were just ordering coffee. I was losing focus a lot. They would tell me to do something and I would try to execute it. But I couldn't follow. If they gave me 10 things I needed to do, I could remember 5. If they gave me 5 to do, I could remember 3. Think about that for a moment. This is the same man who spent years presenting himself as the strong, capable leader of 4 households. The so-called spiritual head who claimed divine authority when it came to family finances, living situations, and major decisions. The husband who often painted his wives as overly emotional or irrational whenever they questioned him. And now, he's openly telling us that when the pressure is on, his mental focus breaks down completely. His words basically confirm that the very foundation he built his authority on was shaky all along. What makes this even harder to ignore is the setting where Kody made these remarks. He was promoting his role on Special Forces, a reality show that's all about breaking people down and exposing who they really are under stress. For years, his wives lived through pregnancies, money problems, custody battles, and constant family emergencies, and all that time, they were depending on someone whose ability to think clearly and handle stress seems to fall apart the minute things get tough.
Surprised how much brain fog I would get into the situation. I didn't find it physically. I found my breaking point was like more mental.
I was surprised at how much brain fog I'd get in these situations, Kody continued. And let's be clear, when he says brain fog, that phrase is carrying a lot more weight than it sounds. This isn't about missing a dentist appointment or forgetting where you left your car keys. This is about serious cognitive breakdowns under pressure, the kind that make you second guess every single family decision this man has ever made. And here's what makes his revelations so frustrating for longtime followers of the Brown family story. Christine, Janelle, and Mary have been trying to raise red flags for years. They've been brushed off as overly dramatic, or told they just couldn't see the bigger picture, but now, it turns out the man they were desperately trying to reason with literally admits that he can't process complex information when things get stressful. The timing of all this could not be more explosive or more telling. Christine's memoir is already pulling back the curtain on years of dysfunction. And now Kody himself is supplying the missing puzzle piece. Almost like he's accidentally confirming everything his wives have been saying. The strangest part? He doesn't even seem to realize he's doing it. He talks about these lapses in focus like they're just quirky little personality traits, never connecting them to the chaos that has followed his decision-making for decades. This is what makes his comments stand out. Kody is describing what amounts to serious cognitive impairment, but he delivers it with zero self-awareness. He doesn't link his mental collapse under pressure to the constant family conflicts, financial blow-ups, and emotional turmoil that always seem to orbit around him. He's not framing it as a flaw, he's framing it like trivia about himself. But here's the real kicker. This isn't about reality TV nerves or one bad day on Special Forces. What Kody revealed is much bigger. This is about a man who declared himself the head of multiple families, while at the same time admitting that, in critical moments, his brain basically shuts down. Every high-stakes family meeting, every major financial crisis, every time his wives needed him to work through complicated emotional issues, he's now told us that his brain wasn't capable of handling it. And it only gets worse when you realize this mental unraveling didn't just show up out of nowhere. During Special Forces, the warning signs were flashing long before he ever set foot on that set. He simply ignored them. Picture this scene, because it almost sounds like a parody of Kody himself. He gets the call inviting him to Special Forces, and his first move is to claim he's been trying to improve my workout for 5 years. Maybe 3 years already. We're getting classic Kody math, where timelines shift as easily as his explanations. He describes squeezing in an hour-and-a-half workout here and there, before checking his phone and convincing himself he was in good enough shape. But then reality hits. He receives the actual preparation checklist for the show, and suddenly Kody realizes he's been living in pure fantasy.
I live at 7,000 feet. I start swimming, and I realize that I'm in terrible shape. So I put on a 50-pound Birkin rucksack and started hiking. I was physically prepared, but I didn't think I was.
I live at 7,000 feet, Kody explained. I started swimming and realized I was in terrible shape. Swimming is a whole different type of workout. I thought, if they make me swim too much, I'm going to die out there. Now, let's pause for a moment and really take this in. This is the same man who spent years projecting himself as someone capable of handling anything life threw his way, and yet, he didn't realize until 5 weeks before filming that he was nowhere near ready for the challenge he had agreed to. That's like signing up to perform surgery, only to find out at the last minute that you faint at the sight of blood. And here's where the story reveals even more about Kody's relationship with reality. Instead of accepting that maybe he wasn't prepared, he doubled down and came up with his own version of preparation. So I put on a 50 lb rucksack and started hiking. Swam a little bit, I was physically prepared. But I didn't think I was. Right there you can hear the contradiction. He was physically prepared, but also in terrible shape just weeks earlier? This is classic Kody logic. Bend the facts into whatever story he needs at the moment. The man who openly admitted he was out of shape now insists he was physically ready all along. The only problem, according to him, was confidence. The timeline tells us everything about how Kody operates under pressure. He had 9 weeks to prepare by his own account. More time than anyone else in the cast, but instead of using that head start wisely, he peaked halfway through and then stalled out at about 5 weeks. Something went wrong and I wasn't improving anymore, he admitted. I was like, what am I going to do? And this isn't just about physical training. It's a bigger pattern of behavior, one that anyone who's dealt with unreliable people will recognize immediately. Lots of big talk at the beginning, an initial burst of effort, and then complete confusion when the hard, consistent work is required. It's the same energy as promising to take care of the family finances, then acting shocked when the bills start piling up. But the most telling part isn't even the failed preparation, it's the way Kody frames it. He had more time than most of the other contestants, yet he spins it as if he was at a disadvantage. He discovered clear weaknesses in himself with weeks left to fix them, yet somehow acted blindsided when those weaknesses turned into problems during the show. The swimming moment is especially brutal because it highlights something much deeper than just being out of shape. Swimming requires sustained focus, steady breathing, and the ability to keep calm under stress. Those are the exact skills Kody would have needed in his family life, handling emergencies, making financial decisions, navigating complicated relationships, and yet, despite years of claiming he could lead multiple households, those skills never developed. But the biggest red flag of all doesn't come from Kody's body. It comes from how quickly his fellow contestants figured him out. While Kody kept telling himself he was physically ready but mentally unprepared, the people around him were seeing something else entirely. They were watching a man who confused leadership with talking loudly, all while contributing very little. One interviewer later put it bluntly, a lot of your fellow Special Forces cast said they didn't exactly jive with you in this experiment. What was going on? That question landed like a direct hit, and Kody's answer gave us all the proof we needed about why 3 of his wives eventually reached their breaking point and walked away.
Gen X, man. I mean, and I have a big mouth. and I was like, I think of it as being very generous. Other people think about it being bossy.
I'm a Gen X man. It's just a different culture, and most of them were younger than my kids. You know, I was old enough to be their parent, Kody explained right away. He plays the age card as if simply being older explains why people found him difficult to be around. This is the same tactic we've seen him use with his wives for years, dismissing their concerns by implying they just didn't understand his supposedly wiser perspective. But then comes the moment that should make every woman who's ever dealt with a mansplainer sit up and take notes. Kody said, I have a big mouth and I think of it as being very generous. Other people think it's being bossy, you know? So it's like, hey, listen, can you pick that up and help me? And it's a little demanding, it came across wrong, let's break this down. Kody genuinely believes that being loud and demanding is the same as being generous. In his mind, barking out orders is his way of helping. That's not just tone deaf, it's a complete misunderstanding of how relationships work. To him, leadership means telling people what to do, and then acting surprised when they don't see it as kindness. Look closely at the example he gave. Hey, listen, can you pick that up and help me? That's not phrased like a request. It's not, could you give me a hand with this? Or would you mind grabbing that? It's basically a command wrapped in a question, built on the assumption that his needs come first and everyone else exists to meet them. And here's why that admission is so damaging. It explains years of family dynamics we've watched play out. Think of all those sister wives episodes where Kody seemed baffled by his wife's frustration. Every time he insisted he was being reasonable while they were accused of being emotional or difficult. Well, now we know he was issuing demands while truly believing he was being generous. The contrast with his castmate Johnny Manziel is striking. Asked about the same situation, Johnny responded, "I had a great experience. I needed him in multiple ways throughout the show. I enjoyed being around him, coming from a football locker room. You understand how important morale is, how important it is to make friends quickly, and to understand people's different lives and different perspectives in one short answer." Johnny displayed more empathy and awareness than Kody did in his entire interview. He acknowledged the value of relationships, respected differences, and highlighted teamwork, things Kody never even touched on. And here's the kicker, Kody's rejection by the cast wasn't just about reality TV drama. These weren't people who had history with him or preconceived ideas from sister wives. They were strangers, meeting him with no context. Yet within days, maybe even hours, they recognized that something about the way he interacted with others was off. That kind of immediate pushback doesn't happen to people who are genuinely generous or naturally collaborative. It happens to people who constantly put their own needs at the center, while convincing themselves they're being helpful. It happens to people who issue commands and then act confused when others don't appreciate their so-called leadership. And the fact that multiple cast members independently came to the same conclusion about Kody makes it crystal clear. This wasn't about culture, it wasn't about age. It was about behavior that consistently rubbed people the wrong way, no matter who they were. The most revealing part of this entire cast dynamic isn't just what Kody did wrong. It's that he has absolutely no idea why people reacted the way they did. When someone can't tell the difference between being helpful and being controlling, you're looking at a serious disconnect from reality, and that explains decades of dysfunction in his family. "I think of it as being very generous. Other people think it's being bossy," Kody said, with genuine confusion that almost makes you want to shake him. This goes beyond poor self-awareness. This is a man who has spent years rewriting his own behavior in his head until demanding compliance looks like kindness. Just think about the mental gymnastics it takes to get there. In Kody's world, telling people what to do equals helping them. Giving orders counts as acts of service. Taking control of other people's lives magically transforms into generosity. It's the exact same twisted logic that convinced him running for households was evidence of being a devoted husband rather than proof that he was trying to control his wives. What makes this even more disturbing is the confidence with which he delivers these statements. There's no pause, no self-reflection, no willingness to consider that if multiple people keep saying the same thing about him, maybe there's a real pattern. Instead, he dismisses everyone else's experience and doubles down on his own version of events, convinced his intentions were misunderstood. And remember, these castmates weren't his wives, who had personal reasons to escape his control. They weren't his children, who lived through years of inconsistent parenting. These were strangers. They had nothing to gain from mischaracterizing him. Yet they all ended up reaching the same conclusion about his behavior. That makes this revelation far bigger than just another reality TV spat. It connects directly to the same mindset Kody has displayed for years. The same perspective that let him convince himself financial chaos was protecting the family. The same blind spot that allowed him to treat neglecting 3 wives as proof of his devotion to Robin. When someone consistently interprets controlling behavior as generosity, it's not just miscommunication, it's a sign of something much deeper. Kody himself has already admitted to memory failures that show just how serious the problem might be. "If they gave me 10 things I needed to do, I could remember 5. If they gave me 5 to do, I could remember 3, he said. Let that sink in. That's not just forgetfulness, that's a 50% failure rate on basic information retention. And it only gets worse the more pressure he's under. Now think about that in the context of the Brown family. Every major decision, every financial emergency, every moment when his wives needed him to hold onto details about their kids, their expenses, their emotional needs. We're now finding out that, under stress, Kody literally couldn't remember half of what he was told. Even more alarming, these lapses weren't spread out over months of grueling competition. By his own words, they happened within minutes or hours. "They would tell me to do something and I would try to execute it, but I couldn't follow." Kody explained, almost like it was normal to completely lose track of instructions right after receiving them. And suddenly, so many confusing moments from sister wives start to make sense. The times he swore he never had conversations his wives clearly remembered. The times he acted baffled about commitments he'd agreed to. The times his wives looked at him like he was speaking another language, while he accused them of being unreasonable. Here's the infuriating part. Those women weren't exaggerating, they weren't imagining things. They were dealing with a man who, by his own admission, couldn't process or retain crucial information and then gaslighted them into believing the problem was theirs. But the biggest revelation of all comes when we look at how this plays into Robin's role in Kody's life. Because nothing reveals a person's true feelings more than an offhand comment in an interview. Do you think she would go off and do this? An interviewer asked about the possibility of Robin joining Special Forces. Kody's answer landed like a slap, and it said far more about where Robin stands in his hierarchy than he probably intended.
Robin, I've seen her in childbirth, so I know how tough she is. She's a very, very tender soul, and this is a very mean environment. Not against your peers, but it's an environment designed to break you, so it is cruel to you and your peers. I would never want her to be in that environment.
Kody reveals deeply problematic attitudes about his wife Robin. When discussing why he wouldn't let her participate in Special Forces training, he claims she's tender and unfocused on fitness, yet simultaneously says she's not a tender person. This contradicts the reality that Robin has given birth 5 times without medication and endured years of sister-wife drama while maintaining family stability. While Kody frames his stance as protective, it reveals controlling behavior similar to what drove away his other wives. He's broadcasting these limitations to a national audience, while casually undermining Robin's capabilities. The contrast is stark when compared to Johnny Manziel, who respectfully acknowledged his ex's strengths even after their relationship ended. Kody misunderstands his relationship with fellow cast member Johnny Manziel, calling it friendship formed through hardship. Johnny corrects him with trauma bonding, a crucial distinction Kody misses. Johnny had to do significant emotional labor to maintain their relationship, being one of the few who could work with Kody's difficult behavior. Most revealing are Kody's admissions about his mental performance under stress. He admits his memory fails 50% of the time under pressure and describes himself as mentally weak. When challenged, production staff even acknowledged pushing him through dangerous situations, with Kody proudly noting how willing he was to follow potentially unsafe orders. These cognitive issues directly explain the family chaos. A man who can't remember basic instructions under stress, spent years making crucial decisions for multiple households and over a dozen people. He positioned himself as spiritual and practical leader, while admitting to being cognitively unreliable when it mattered most. For Christine, Janelle, and Mary, these admissions provide vindication. They were dismissed as emotional when they claimed Kody seemed absent during crucial moments. Now he's confirming he literally wasn't mentally present when they needed him most. He built a family structure requiring reliability under pressure, then acted confused when it collapsed.